Imagine walking into a museum and seeing a priceless painting hanging on the wall. Thousands of people have looked at it, historians have studied it, experts have protected it for hundreds of years. To the world, it is a piece of human history, but to one man, it was something else. It was something he wanted to take home, not to sell, not to become rich, not to build a criminal empire. He simply wanted it to belong to him. Over more than a decade, this man stole hundreds of priceless artworks from museums, churches, and castles across Europe. The total value of his collection was estimated to be more than $1 billion. Yet, when investigators finally uncovered his secret, they discovered something almost impossible to believe. The world's greatest art thief was not living in luxury. He was not hiding in a mansion. He was not spending stolen money on expensive cars or private islands. Instead, many of the greatest treasures he had stolen were hidden inside an ordinary room. A room where he could sit alone and admire them. This is the strange and unbelievable story of Stéphane Breitwieser, the man who became known as the greatest art thief in history. But his story does not begin with a criminal mastermind. It begins with a young man who simply loved beauty too much. Stéphane Breitwieser was born in France in 1971. Unlike many criminals, there was nothing obvious in his early life that suggested he would become one of the most famous thieves in history. He was not known for violence. He was not part of a criminal organization. He was not chasing money or power. In fact, he seemed almost like the opposite of a typical criminal. He was quiet, sensitive, and deeply fascinated by history and art. As a young man, Breitwieser developed a passion for European paintings, sculptures, and historical objects. When he visited museums, he did not see old objects behind glass. He saw stories. A painting was not just paint on a canvas. It was a connection to another time. A sculpture was not just stone or metal. It was something created by human hands hundreds of years ago. For most people, visiting a museum means looking at the past. For Breitwieser, it felt like he could almost enter the past. And slowly, that fascination began to change into something much darker. At first, his obsession seemed harmless. He spent hours studying artworks. He learned about different artists. He memorized historical details. He understood how museums displayed their collections. But while most art lovers studied museums because they admired them, Breitwieser studied them for another reason. He was looking for weaknesses. He noticed things that ordinary visitors ignored. Which paintings were protected by weak security? Which rooms had fewer guards? When were museums the busiest? Where were cameras placed? He began to understand museums almost like a puzzle. And eventually, he decided he wanted something no ordinary visitor could have. He wanted ownership, not temporary ownership, not a photograph, not a memory. He wanted the real object. In 1995, Breitwieser committed his first major theft. The location was a small museum in France. The object he targeted was not chosen because it was famous. It was chosen because he felt connected to it. This would become a pattern throughout his entire criminal career. He did not choose artworks based on their market value. He chose them because he personally loved them. During the theft, he carefully avoided causing damage. There was no dramatic break-in, no violent confrontation, no destruction. He simply removed the artwork and walked away. For most thieves, this would have been the beginning of a plan. The next step would be finding a buyer, turning the stolen object into cash. But Breitwieser did something completely different. He brought the artwork home, and there, inside his own room, he placed it among his private possessions. He did not hide it in a secret underground vault. He did not immediately try to escape. Instead, he spent time looking at it, studying it, enjoying it. The stolen artwork was not a product. It was a treasure that, in his mind, finally belonged somewhere it could be truly appreciated. This was the moment when a strange obsession became a dangerous addiction. Because after the first theft, Breitwieser did not feel satisfied. He wanted another piece, and then another. Every successful theft strengthened the idea that he could continue. Soon, museums across Europe became his hunting grounds. He traveled with his partner, Anne Catherine Kleinklaus, who often accompanied him during his crimes. To outsiders, they looked like a normal young couple interested in culture and history. They visited museums, they admired artwork, they walked through historic buildings. But behind the appearance of two art lovers was a completely different reality. They were searching for the next target. What made Breitwieser different from almost every other art thief was his strange relationship with the stolen objects. Many criminals steal because they want to escape poverty. Some steal because they want fame. Others steal because they want power. But Breitwieser seemed trapped by something else. He wanted a private world, a world where he could surround himself with the beauty of centuries past. His room slowly transformed into a secret museum. Ancient paintings covered the walls. Rare objects filled the space. Historical treasures that belonged to the public were now hidden away where almost nobody could see them. It was an unbelievable contradiction. He loved art so much that he destroyed the very thing he claimed to admire, because art was created to be shared, to be experienced by generations of people. But Breitwieser wanted it all for himself, and the more he stole, the more confident he became. The careful young collector slowly turned into one of the most successful art thieves Europe had ever seen. Over the following years, he would steal hundreds of valuable objects, some from museums, some from churches, some from historic buildings. The value of his hidden collection continued to rise. But strangely, even after collecting treasures worth hundreds of millions of dollars, he still refused to sell them. He had created something almost unheard of in the criminal world. A thief who did not want money. A thief who did not want recognition. A thief who only wanted to look at what he had stolen. But every secret collection has a weakness. The more impossible a secret becomes, the harder it is to keep hidden. And eventually, the greatest art thief in history would make a mistake that would begin the collapse of his entire world. Because the thing that finally exposed him was not a brilliant detective, not an advanced security system, not a museum alarm. It was something much more human, a relationship. And the discovery of what was hidden inside an ordinary home would reveal one of the strangest criminal stories the art world had ever seen. For years, Stéphane Breitwieser had managed to live with a secret that seemed impossible to hide. Inside his home was a collection that museums could only dream of. Paintings that had survived centuries, sculptures created by forgotten artists, historical objects that carried stories from generations long gone. But the biggest danger was not the police. It was the fact that Breitwieser had built his entire life around a secret that depended on everyone around him staying silent. And eventually, that silence began to break. By the late 1990s, Breitwieser had become more confident. Too confident. The same obsession that made him careful in the beginning slowly pushed him into taking bigger risks. He no longer saw himself as a simple thief. In his own mind, he was almost a protector of art. He believed that museums did not truly appreciate these objects. He believed that he understood their beauty better than anyone else. This was the dangerous illusion that allowed him to continue. He was not stealing because he thought he was doing something wrong. He had created a personal story where his actions made sense. In his mind, he was not destroying history. He was saving it. But reality was very different. Every stolen artwork meant that millions of people lost the chance to experience a piece of their own cultural heritage. One of the most important moments came in 1999. Breitwieser and Anne-Catherine visited the Château de Gruyères in Switzerland. Inside the castle was a valuable 18th century hunting horn. To Breitwieser, it was another irresistible treasure. He stole it, but this time, something went wrong. Unlike many of his previous thefts, investigators began connecting the clues. The pattern of missing artworks across Europe was becoming clearer. A mysterious thief had been targeting historical objects for years, and eventually, the authorities began closing in. But the biggest shock came from an unexpected source. Not a detective, not a museum security expert, not an undercover operation. It came from inside his own family. When investigators began searching for the evidence, Breitwieser's mother discovered the enormous collection hidden in her son's room. She finally understood the scale of what he had done. Her son was not just collecting a few stolen objects. He had created one of the largest private collections of stolen art in modern history. And then, in a desperate attempt to protect him, she made a decision that would become one of the most tragic parts of the entire story. She destroyed the evidence. Thousands of years of human creativity had survived wars, revolutions, natural disasters. But some of these priceless objects did not survive one mother's desperate attempt to protect her son. Paintings were cut apart, objects were damaged, pieces of history were thrown away. Some treasures disappeared forever. The irony was almost impossible to understand. A man who claimed to love art had stolen it from the world. And then, in trying to protect him, his family helped destroy it. The very things he wanted to preserve were lost because of the crime itself. When authorities finally uncovered the truth, they found hundreds of stolen objects connected to Breitwieser. The estimated value of his collection shocked the world. Some estimates placed it at over $1 billion. But the exact value was almost impossible to calculate, because many of these objects were not valuable only because of their price. Their real value came from their history, from the people who created them, from the centuries they had survived. A lost painting cannot simply be replaced with money. A piece of history only exists once. In 2005, Breitwieser was sentenced to prison. But unlike many famous criminals, he did not become a wealthy criminal legend. He did not retire on stolen riches. He did not build a criminal empire. The man who had stolen some of the most valuable artworks in Europe ended up with almost nothing. His obsession had given him temporary possession of incredible treasures, but it had also destroyed the very thing he claimed to love. So why did someone do this? Why would a person risk prison for objects he could never sell? The answer is more complicated than simple greed. Most thieves want something they do not have: money, status, power. But Breitwieser wanted something different. He wanted connection. He wanted to feel close to beauty, history, and something greater than himself. The problem was that his desire to possess those things became stronger than his respect for them. He confused appreciation with ownership, and that is where his obsession turned into destruction. There is a strange lesson hidden inside this story. Human beings have always wanted to preserve beautiful things. We build museums, we protect ancient monuments, we restore old paintings, because we understand that some things are bigger than one person. They belong to everyone. Art is not powerful because someone owns it. Art is powerful because people can experience it together. A painting locked away in a private room may still exist physically, but something important has been lost: its connection with the world. Today, Stéphane Breitwieser remains one of the most unusual criminals in history. Not because he stole the most expensive objects, Not because he was the most dangerous, but because his motivation was so different from everyone else. He was a thief who did not want money, a collector who destroyed his own collection, a man who loved art so much that he helped erase parts of it forever. And perhaps the strangest part of the story is this: the greatest art thief in history spent years chasing beauty. But in the end, his obsession blinded him to the most important truth. Beauty was never meant to be owned. It was meant to be shared. This was Enigma Files. If you enjoy stories about the most fascinating, mysterious, and unbelievable moments in human history, subscribe and join us for the next journey into the unknown.